Good evening, and welcome to What's Your Story? This is the second half of a show that we are doing on domestic violence. My guests are Carolyn Jasper and Rebecca Lemanski. They are from the Prudence Crandall Center. And if you missed the first part, we'll recap a little bit here, but we want to go into other issues related to domestic violence, the victims, the children, and so forth. So again, welcome, ladies.
Thank you
Thank you for being here. Why don't we start this segment by telling people if they know someone who is a victim of domestic violence, what they should do.
So I'll start by saying that, if we know someone, we want to always, validate their experience. We want to be able to listen to them, and it's really important that, when someone has been abused, that we don't tell them what to do, because this can harm them. So we want to be able to, again, listen to them without actually giving advice, which can be hard to do. We also, in Connecticut, like to give them the number of the Safe Connect hotline, right, which is 888-774-2900. And again, just validate their concerns and just validate their experience. That can go a long way to making them feel safe.
Letting them know that they can text, chat, or call that number
24/7.
24/7.
They have somewhere to call.
And get that expert advice of someone who can help them understand and put in perspective what they personally are going through. Help them do what we call safety planning.
Ah, yes.
Which is thinking through.
Yes, how you get out.
How you get out, how you make yourself,
yes.
say if you're not ready to leave yet,
yes.
how to keep yourself more safe in the moment.
Yes.
And there are so many different layers to that. It sounds like a simple thing, but especially in the digital age, it's very complex.
Yes.
So that's why we recommend you don't tell someone. It's counterintuitive, right? You want to say, well, leave, go right now. But we need to meet the victim where they are and make sure that they get the advice that works best for them, that will keep them safe. And they are probably have the best knowledge of what those keys are. But working with a certified domestic violence counselor will help them think through all of their options and all of those details to keep them safe going.
And and I just want to reiterate one important point. And you mentioned it, and we mentioned it before, is that the victim, the survivor, knows what they need. They know what the abuser is capable of, and so it's always important to empower them and to not put what we think they need to do on them, because they know best.
Fairness in broadcasting demands that I talk to you about this. Abusers are not only males. Is that correct?
Absolutely, that is correct.
Please talk to that, because I know I'm going to hear, well, you didn't talk about the women abusers. So.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, we hope that in all of our previous discussions, we aren't using
gender,
male, women, gender. No, it's about, as Rebecca appropriately described in the last segment, it is about power and control. So it isn't about some idea of physical dominance, one sex over the other. And it has many manifestations, emotionally, financially, legally. So it isn't about just one stereotype of abuse.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and we, as Carolyn mentioned in the beginning, or the first segment, is that we expanded our services. This started with women, right? But we know that men do get abused as well, or other genders, LGBTQ, because again, it's about power and control. So we think of the typical manifestation of women being the victim or the person that's being abused, and the man that's abusing, but it can go either way. A man can be abused, and men do get abused, but oftentimes they, because of the stigma, don't tend to share that or don't tend to reach out for help. So that also needs to change as well, because it can go either way, no matter who you are as a person. Again, it's about power and control.
Right. And we want people to reach out for help. We are very grateful that in our emergency shelter, which we spoke about.
There's a comfort level for people to do that. Regardless of gender or sexual orientation or what have you.
Right. And we have dedicated space for people who may not be comfortable in our group areas in
Yeah.
our shelter, which are typically women and children. We have dedicated spaces for people who wouldn't be comfortable for a variety of reasons. So it might be male victims, or it might be a member of the LGBTQ community. It might be a parent with autistic children. We're really grateful that we have that space for them, where they can be welcomed, they can get that 24/7 care, but still have the privacy they may need.
You know, I'm really curious about something. We've talked about it, but I'd like to elaborate a little bit. Say a young person getting into a relationship, okay? Young male, young female, whatever. There are warning signs that are screaming, hey, get out of here.
Right.
What are those?
Absolutely. You know, so at the start of a new relationship, right, it's not always easy to tell if it's going to become abusive, right? So oftentimes in the beginning, the abusive partner can seem like an ideal person to be with. So, you know, again, possessive and controlling behaviors typically don't happen overnight, and typically they emerge as time goes on, as the relationship grows. As we mentioned before, every relationship is different, and domestic violence does not always look the same for every situation.
But there must certainly be a pattern, like abuse and prostration of apology.
Absolutely.
I am so sorry. It'll never happen again.
Absolutely.
I was drinking. I was tired. I was upset.
So that's right. So if you think about some common signs of abusive behavior, and I want to make a note here that it's really important that even just 2 of these red flags are
Even 2?
Even just only 2 of these that I'm going to talk about are red flags. Watch out, you know, look out, go the other way. Telling you that you never do anything right, showing extreme jealousy, okay, of your friends or time spent away from them, preventing or discouraging you from spending time with your friends or family, insulting you, demeaning you, shaming you, especially in front of other people or behind closed doors, preventing you from making your own decisions, right? So about working or going to school, controlling the finances without any discussion, pressuring you to have sex or perform sexual acts you're not comfortable with, pressuring you to use drugs or alcohol. You know, there's intimidating you through threatening looks or using weapons like guns or knives or bats, insulting the way that you parent, right? Threatening to harm or take away your children or your pets, and then destroying things, you know? So those are a lot of those things you can see, but some of them you can't see because that pressure, that control, that jealousy, the intimidation, a lot of times it happens where we just can't see it.
It's behind closed doors.
That's right.
It is a reason we call it intimate partner violence, domestic violence, because often those actions and attributes that she's talking about only happens. The person can be a wonderful coworker, a great friend, a wonderful family member.
Nice pastor.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes, but it's behind closed doors and in this intimate relationship where that need to have the power and control exhibits itself and manifests itself.
I think people need to understand, excuse me, that, you know, it doesn't matter what your profession is. You know, you could be an abuser. It's just that simple. And people need to understand that. We need to get away from the stereotypic view that, well, this group of people, well, they're above that. No, they're not. It happens in every group, every subsection, every culture, across the board.
That's right. Every culture, every socioeconomic status.
Every profession.
Every level of those professions. I mean, just across the board, across the world. I mean, this has been an increase globally as well during the pandemic. So it happens everywhere.
Everywhere.
And when you see some of those warning signs, it could be, for example, you're noticing that your child has to check in with their boyfriend or girlfriend all the time, and they're always connected by the phone. And to a young person, this may feel like, well, they really love me.
Exactly.
That's why I'm getting all this attention.
Exactly.
For a parent who sees warning signs, also things like being told how to dress, being told who they can hang out with, who they can't hang out with, all those kind of things. If you see any of those warning signs, know that 800 number, that 888-774-2900 is there for you as well.
Okay.
You can call as a parent or a coworker or a sister or a brother and say, I'm seeing this and this, and it doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't feel good in my gut, but I don't want to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing. What should I do? You don't have to remember what we talked about today. You just call that number and you can get that advice too to help someone in your life. You don't need to be in immediate physical danger or know someone who it is. That's a resource line for everyone.
The critical part of this equation that we haven't talked much about, which I would like to do now, are the children. Take it and run with it. What about the kids and domestic violence?
Well, in the past, I think we've often thought of the adult victim as the victim, but we're here to tell you everyone in that family is truly victimized by violence in the home. A child who experiences violence can be affected physically, emotionally, psychologically, socially, both now and into their adulthood. If they don't get the intervention and help that they need now to process their emotions, what they experienced, learn about the differences between a healthy and an unhealthy relationship, and regain and form those trusted bonds with the non-abusive parent, but also other adults in their lives. These are really foundational to a child's mental and physical well-being. So it's so critical that across all of our program areas, we're able to offer help directly to children.
What kind of help?
Especially at this time with the intersection, as you mentioned earlier, of the concerns over children's mental health and teens' mental health post-pandemic or during the pandemic. And, you know, it's kind of that perfect storm for the kids who were also in homes where there was violence. So those are the kids that we really, really know that we need to reach and we need to care about now that they're back in school and that hopefully can connect more with help out in the greater community. And that's where we're going to be investing in the next year to try to expand those services, because right now we have one children's services coordinator. It's only a partially funded position, and it's not nearly enough to help all of the kids across all of our programs.
Right. So one of the things that we're doing, so we have the children's services, right? And so to Carolyn's point, we only have one, but we're getting ready soon to hire a part-time child advocate. So it's a children's advocate. That's the name of the position, right? And so it's thinking about working within that family system.
Is this person a social worker, a lawyer, or what?
This person would be somebody who is more in the social services field, right?
Okay.
So somebody who knows about family life development, parenting support services, child development, those kinds of things to promote that healthy relationship within the family, right?
Yes.
So kind of tackling it from both ends, because, you know, so providing those services to the children, but then also in turn working with the parents, the moms, the dads, to encourage healthy development, to encourage those nurturing parenting skills, to talk about the trauma of domestic violence, to talk about the effects of that, to teach them healthy ways to cope with stress, to build their resiliency, you know, the family as a whole, right? So we don't want to tackle it separately. So a lot of these programs with the children will also focus parallel services with the parent as well, so that we can take it from both sides. So it's working and educating the child on their level, right, depending on their age appropriate, and then working with the parents to help uplift the child and the family unit and the development thereof, so that we can promote that self-sufficiency, that real empowerment that they need for children to flourish, right? That kind of stuff.
And have that lasting impact, to your point, because they'll be with us for only a point in time.
Absolutely.
But that bond with the non-abusive parent is something that they're going to need over the long term.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that research shows is that kids who experience trauma, it takes one safe, stable, nurturing relationship to help them become resilient, to help them have better outcomes as adults. One safe, stable, nurturing relationship. And it doesn't have to be a parent. We want it to be, it should, you know, naturally it feels like, but it could be an aunt, it could be a grandparent, it could be a close family friend, right? To help them through these challenging times. And so that's really, really important to keep in mind, because someone can play that role for a child who has experienced domestic violence or has been a witness to it, or who has been traumatized.
Are you mandated reporters?
Yes, we are.
And would you please explain what that means?
Yeah, mandated reporter. So that means that when you're a mandated reporter, if we see something happening or hear of something happening in the home, let's just say, we might see some sort of abuse occur or some sort of a neglectful situation. When you're a mandated reporter, you've got to be able to report that to the Department of Children and Families so that that department can follow up and kind of do an assessment to make sure that the child is safe, right? And so it's always a good idea when you are a mandated reporter to let the parent know, look, I am a mandated reporter and, X, Y, and Z happened and now I need to make a call to DCF to report this. But it's always good to let them know if you can. I mean, if it's safe to do so. You want that collaborative partnership with the parent if you can get that. And if not, then you would still need to make the call depending on the safety or the severity of what you might have experienced or seen.
You spoke earlier about not having enough funding. You only had one child, a full-time child advocate now. Funding. How can people get funds to you, and do you encourage people to do so?
Well, absolutely. We are a private nonprofit. We are part of the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence, which is a network of other private domestic violence agencies across the state of Connecticut. But we are a private nonprofit. Our budget is about $2.7 million a year. Much of that is for the housing and the shelter programs, which are so vital and so take a lot of support to run on an annual basis. And about 2/3 of our funding comes from recurring government sources, state and federal, and about 1/3 every year we have to raise from scratch. So that means on July 1st, the beginning of our fiscal year, this year we are looking to raise $750,000 just to continue the work that we're already doing in the next program, just to maintain. And so when we want to make investments, like we want to expand those children's services because of what we see coming out of the pandemic and what we know the community really needs right now, when we need to put people in hotels, even though that's not part of what we're budgeted for, but it's our mission to take people when they need help, when we need to expand our housing program so that people move forward from shelter sooner rather than later and then into long-term homes of their own, which is better for their outcomes all around, but also will help us with that shelter crisis situation. All of those investments we need to figure out, get public support for, so that we can have the best results for our communities.
When I visited your center, I saw a food layout, a display, and Sarah, I believe, explained to me that the community steps up and provides services for you and the victims and the children. Would you speak a little bit about community involvement?
Absolutely. We have such an amazing and caring community, and that can be groups from faith-based organizations and workplaces, individuals and families who connect to the work that we do and want to do something directly to help the families and survivors in our programs. So they do, more things than I can describe in this segment, but we have someone who brings by baked goods that are donated from Costco every week. We have other church groups that will make a full supper and bring that, and then we'll deliver it to our confidential shelter so that the families don't cook that night, so that they can just enjoy fellowship time and a meal prepared for them. We have many donors who will donate things for our families moving forward back into a house of their own or an apartment of their own for the very first time. So they've left everything behind when they came to us for help. So that's just regular household furnishings. That's everything from spatulas to mixing bowls.
Soups to nuts.
That's right. And then other groups that will donate things that we need routinely in our shelter, like sheets and towels and things like that. So we always have wish lists that we have on our website, www.prudencecrandall.org.
Okay.
But you can also call me in my office because what we work with is the community. The number is 860-259-3817, and we can let you know what it is that's needed to make it meaningful for you as well.
So you've been fortunate in the regards that you have that support of the community
Oh, our
behind
community
you.
is amazing.
Absolutely.
Our community is incredible.
Yeah, and without that leg, it would be even more difficult to accomplish what you need to get done, I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were humbled and awed by the way the community stepped up last year when we were closed down. You can't run fundraisers the way you usually do.
Oh,
You couldn't
yes.
connect with people, and we had these skyrocketing costs that weren't budgeted for.
Are there any costs to the victims that you shelter? Any financial costs that they have when they come to you?
Well, so, part of it is when, when we have people staying in shelter, we provide them, lunch and dinner, right? So we provide, that. Is that
No, I
what
mean,
you're-
does the victim have to pay anything for the
No,
service?
no.
That's what I
No,
meant, yes.
No, our services are completely free
Okay.
to
If you're
to
in our,
use.
that's absolutely true. If you're in our housing program,
Okay.
that's different because typically it's a third of what,
Okay.
we have like 3 different programs.
Okay.
But that's helping someone get on the road to financial and housing stability. So it might be a third of whatever they make when they first come into the program. And then they work with our case managers we have vocational services
Wow.
and helping them get childcare and helping them get to the place they need to be, depending on their circumstances, to be independent over the long term.
My goodness,
So-
I was really impressed when I went there and saw the medical room that was set up and ready to go. I mean, just like in a hospital.
Yep, partnership with Community
And the
Health
room
Center.
where the people can go and do computers and things like that. The kids
absolutely.
can be on the computers. And I was really, really impressed to have had an opportunity to come there. But I want to make this point really clear because our viewers may be confused. The Prudence Crandall Center itself is not these private, secret locations where people are sheltered.
Our emergency shelter absolutely is at a confidential location.
And nobody knows where that is.
No, and we wouldn't have people come there or come and visit.
Exactly.
our
Okay. I just want to make sure that someone listening thinking, well, I'm not going to the Prudence Crandall Center because, no, they're 2 separate places where you can go and be protected.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
Let's go back. One other point you said that I found really, really intriguing. You talked about emotional abuse. It's such a complicated, hard to grasp, inexplicable, unexpressible thing.
Right.
When a person comes to you, they're shattered, I would imagine, in more ways than one.
Absolutely.
And you're trying to put the pieces back together again.
Absolutely. There's a lot of dynamics at play, right? So it encompasses how they were raised
Yes.
and what they feel love is, their age.
What's love got to do with it?
What's love got to do with it, right? And it does have a lot to do with it. How have we experienced love when we were a child, and the patterns that we see, the power, the control, and things that we just can't see with our eyes, right? We can feel them inside of our bodies, but we just can't see.
Just can't see
can't
them.
see it, And
Yes.
again, behind those closed doors, the things that occur, that if someone's not going to share it or let anyone else know, there's no way that
no way you can get
that
to
we
it.
would even know. We could
Exactly.
be working with them. We could see them in
Exactly.
our church. We could see them at the stores, in our
Exactly.
community groups or whatever, and not
Never know.
and never know that.
Never, ever know. Give that 1-800 number again, please, would you, Carolyn?
It is 888-774-2900. And to that point, what I would ask everyone, if they can have one takeaway from our 2 sessions, is that they can be part of the solution. This, again, is a public health crisis. The issue doesn't live in the victim. We have to just let go of that and know that it's in the abuser, and know that all of us can understand the warning signs, understand in all of those parts of our lives where to look to help connect someone to help and make a really lasting change going forward.
Well, I'm honored to have had both of you here, and I hope that you will come back and talk to me and
Absolutely.
spread further knowledge about this horrific problem that we deal with every day. That's all for this segment of What's Your Story? I am your host, James Ransom Reed Jr. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, everybody has a story. What's yours?